that term supply chain was definitely a hot topic during the COVID time period because everything was impacted across all industries and it was supply chain, supply chain, supply chain, right? So before we even talk about like diversifying, like for the listeners, like if we could break that down as simple as can be, like what is a supply chain when we talk about this concept of supply chain? What do we mean by that?
What is the chain or the flow of resources necessary to produce a good or service, right? That a company needs to produce that good or service. So you have this podcast and we're on StreamYard right now. So StreamYard is a part of your supply chain to produce this podcast that we're on. Right. But, companies of all sizes, or every company has some type of supply chain with their product and service. And the large companies, your Fortune 500s, your Fortune 100s, are spending billions and billions of dollars to produce the products and services that are making them into those Fortune 100, those Fortune 500 types of companies. And my thought process and what I advocate for is for more diverse companies, more Black businesses to be a part of those supply chains. Because the more that we can be suppliers of these large corporations and government agencies, the more wealth that's bringing to our community. Because the only way to succeed in the business long term is to create a customer and to have a customer. So the more that we can get these large corporations and businesses to be our customers, the better off Black communities will be nationwide.
Let me just offer some pushback here because I hear what you're saying from a Black community standpoint, but if I'm a Fortune 100, why does diversifying the supply chain have any benefit to my bottom line?
A couple of reasons, right? So first, especially if you're talking about the browning and blacking of the United States, companies are facing an existential crisis in terms of demographic change, right? So having a supply base that doesn't match your demographic change, you're missing a huge opportunity to actually serve those same suppliers and those communities as actual customers. So when you're thinking about it from that perspective, a lot of businesses, especially the Latino communities, they are looking at that wholeheartedly and in full force in regards to how we can promote Latinx company right here and put that in our marketing campaigns and using that as a way to say, look, we support your community. Buy from us. We're Procter & Gamble or Johnson & Johnson or whoever that actually may be. But then also it comes down to a question of business diversity. Some of those white suppliers and those other companies that you use for 30 years or whatever, they kind of suck, all right? And you need to open up the doors and opportunities to other types of businesses and new ways of doing things and new strategies of doing things. You need to open that up so you can find the best suppliers so you can make the best products possible for your business as well.
Yeah, because I'm curious, does the term, because the term DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, does the work that you're speaking about as relates to supply chains, does that fit under that umbrella, or are we talking something completely different here?
It should fit underneath that umbrella, but it rarely does. So when you have specific like DEI conversations, a lot of times that falls under in terms of hiring and employment. And what does it mean to, I guess your employees are supplying your business with like the labor necessary for you to produce that product and service. But that's usually or oftentimes different sector than actual companies that have some raw good that you actually need to make your particular make your product or service. I think the umbrella that it falls underneath more so is ESG, right? So environmental social governance of an organization. And ESG has become, controversial in many circles, but something that, is definitely not going away with these corporations moving forward.
1,000%, I would agree with that. So okay, if that's the case, like okay, how do you bridge? I guess this is what you're working on, but like, how do you bridge that gap in like helping connect these multi-billion-dollar multinational enterprises to more local, smaller, diverse suppliers who can offer them something to benefit their bottom line as a business? Like if I am a local entrepreneur and I produce a good or service that one of these major companies or the government can benefit from, like how do I get their attention to take advantage of those opportunities?
And therein lies the question, right? And I think a big problem in terms of making that happen is many of these small businesses that you're talking about are too small to do business with these corporations and government agencies, right? Because you might be able to service 12 different restaurants. Let's say it's a restaurant chain or something, but McDonald's needs you to supply 1,000 restaurants. So it's building up enough capacity in these companies, in these businesses, these minority, these Black-owned businesses, where they can have the actual capacity to fulfill a larger scale contract. So that is what we've uncovered to be the biggest issue with adding more diverse businesses to the supply chain. It's not that companies don't want to do business with Black-owned companies or minority businesses, or however you want to define it. It's a lot of times the businesses are too small to do business with the Fortune 500s.
Wow. Interesting. Too small. Like, I guess it's so many different examples, because when you talk about supply chains, you talk about verticals, you talk about all the things that go into a business. It's so many different goods and services that can be a part of a supply chain, especially at this level of enterprise. But I guess, like, with that said, what are maybe some key like pathways that you've seen maybe have the least amount of friction in like getting there to that relationship? Like if I am an aspiring business person trying to come up with the game plan on what my next product or service might be, and knowing that I'm going after this market of Fortune 100, 500 companies to do business with them long term. In your experience, what are some of those key goods and services that you think are going to be really at the forefront here in the near future or currently?
Well, that's a simple yet slightly unexplored question that we are actively talking about often right now. I would first say there's a mindset shift that needs to be happening. If you want to be an entrepreneur to serve a Fortune 500 company now, chances are you won't be starting that company from scratch, right? You will be acquiring some existing business and then growing and scaling from there. Not to say it's not possible. On the federal government side, there are programs like 8A, 8A certification, those types of things that make it easier to get your foot in the door to do business. But with like corporations, some have programs to kind of help scale you up.